And just like that, another SEC regular season is in the books. Time truly does fly by when you're having fun, because it feels like yesterday it was July and we were in SEC Media Days talking about how many teams can go to the college football playoff. Who's going to be that breakout team that makes a run to Atlanta? Who's on the hot seat? Who's QB1? And you fast forward 4 months. The answers to those questions are 6 new head coaches, including one with a team going to the playoff, 4 teams guaranteed a bid in the college football playoff, if not a 5th. The QB1 is probably the kid out in Nashville, and the usual suspects are playing in Atlanta. We still have a ton of content coming your way in the offseason, but before we close the book on the regular season, here's my final tier rankings. Let's not waste any time. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe to the channel if you love SEC football conversations. Download the podcast version of the show, wherever you get your podcast listening systems, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are proudly fueled by our friends at FANDUEL. Now is the perfect time with the holiday season right around the corner to sign on up. Get $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/SECU. Make your play on who you think wins the SEC title in 2026. Now, as always, we are looking at this in a tier ranking. It is not a power ranking. So just because if your team is listed behind another team, it doesn't mean I think that that team's better. It just means you're in the same category. First tier, new coach, new us. Arkansas, Florida, Auburn, Kentucky, and LSU. 4 of those teams are not going to a bowl game this year. LSU is, but it doesn't feel like that they have a lot of fight in there. So you hit reset on your calendar and reset on your expectations by bringing in guys like Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas, John Summerall at Florida, Alex Golish at Auburn, Will Stein at Kentucky, and Lane Kiffin at LSU. Now, again, we don't know what the expectations are going to be for next season because every school is built different. Hirings of coordinators are going to play a major factor on how well these teams can adapt. What you do in the transfer portal, what you've done with recruiting are going to be massive towards these teams' success. But everyone is getting to hit reset. Out in Arkansas, maybe Ryan Silverfield is the answer that is necessary. So far, a lot of people are dogging the hire. Apparently, I'm dogging the hire. But if he brings in the right recruits and hits well in the transfer portal, he may end up being the breakout star in 2026. Florida is killing it when it comes to their hirings of coordinators. Love the addition of Buster Faulkner coming on in, and I do think Brad White's going to do wonders. Auburn is going to have an opportunity to have a brand new look and an explosive offense, and they retain TJ Durkin, which I think is a smart move. Kentucky is bringing in not only Will Stein, but they're bringing in Joe Sloan to work with quarterbacks, which may end up being really promising. And LSU, who knows what they bring in, but they land Lane Kiffin, which is probably the best deal of them all. So every one of these teams is getting to hit reset going into 2026. One of them probably has expectations to be in the college football playoff. The other 4 may end up being really nice surprises that change the way we view the SEC moving forward. Same coach, same version of us. That's South Carolina. South Carolina went 4-8 this year. It was a dreadful season out in Columbia. Bad offensive line play, inability to run the football, countless errors on the offensive side, and your defense really held strong. So what are we seeing? Well, Shane Beamer did not get fired. He is going to be back in Columbia for another year at Willie B, and hopefully he'll be the reason why the program is turned around. He is making massive changes to the staff. He is getting rid of multiple offensive pieces. He is getting rid of multiple offensive coaches. He's got rid of several defensive coaches. He is starting fresh, and maybe that's necessary. Maybe you got to go out and add in a new quarterback. You didn't lose Landon Duckworth, which is a massive win for the War Chickens, in my opinion. But at the same time, you got to ask yourself, is this who we are as a program underneath Shane Beamer? 1 year of success, 1 year of mediocrity, 1 year of instantaneous success, 1 year of dreadful results. We don't really have a good pattern going into year 5, but now we're going to get a glimpse of who this team is and what this team can be and what appears to be a crucial year for Shane Beamer and company, because right now, he may be at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to coaches on the hot seat. Watch out for us next season. That's Mississippi State, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you saw what I saw in the Egg Bowl and down the stretch, but Kamario Taylor's got it. He's got something. Moxie, poise, do it throughout mobility, cannon of an arm, whatever you want to call it. He is an enticing quarterback and an exciting quarterback that I think you can build around. So that's really going to be the game plan for Zach Selman and for Jeff Levy going into the offseason when it comes to having the right resources in the transfer portal and the NIL funds to guarantee that you build around your young up-and-coming quarterback. Fluff Bothwell is going to be back next year. Massive for the offensive side. You are going to have some young receivers that could end up having breakout seasons. Anthony Evans should be back for next season. But you got to spend money in the transfer portal. You got to make some staff adjustments. Coleman Hutzler, Happy trails to you and yours. I hope you nothing but the best, but you are no longer necessarily needed in Starkville. And you got to be able to retain some talent on the defensive side while also adding in a ton of names in the portal. If you continue to build this up and you had a really strong actual finish to recruiting in the early signing period this year, I think the Mississippi State could be a team that we are talking about in such a prominent light. The offense is clicking. They have the defensive pieces. Now it's just all going to come together in year 3. Don't judge me by year 1. Judge me by year 3. The version of Mississippi State that we see in 2026 is the version you can expect in the Jeff Lebby era moving forward. Bull-bound, but below our standards. That's Tennessee and Missouri. Missouri was coming off back-to-back 10-win campaigns. That cannot happen this year because they lost one extra game and they finished 8-4. Even if you think that Missouri, who has turned the corner and is not known as a bottom dweller anymore in the conference, well, right now, it's the standard underneath Eli Drinkwitz. We expect to go 10-2. We expect to be in the college football playoff hunt. We're bringing in the right transfer portal players. We're hitting well in recruiting. We're developing our foundation and our system. And that's not what we expect. Losing to teams like Alabama, okay, that's fine if it would keep it close. Losing to teams like Vanderbilt never is supposed to be in our repertoire. So how do we go back to fixing those little details in the offseason to better ourselves when we can look at this program as a team that's on the rise, not a team that has plateaued underneath Eli Drinkwitz? He just signed a new extension, just got his coordinators paid. So now it's going to be a bidding war for guys like Corey Batoon and Kirby Moore, which may be really beneficial. You probably will have back Bo Pabula next season, and you ain't losing to Mod Hardy in the transfer portal. So you got to like your foundation, but it's below the standard of what I think Eli Drinkwitz and the Como faithful really want. You got to be able to fix some things in the offseason to guarantee next year may be the year that you were in the college football playoff, similar to a team like Ole Miss. And as for Tennessee, Tennessee had a lot of things go against them at the start of the year. You lost your starting quarterback to the transfer portal right before the spring game. You brought in a new guy who was a veteran that may have been a good fit, but didn't know the offense. You were replacing a ton of talent on the defensive side. You didn't have your star defensive back in Jamal McCoy out there for the entire season. So a lot of things were against Tennessee, and yet still they finished 8-4. You still had one of the best passers in the conference this year, and you still had two of the better receivers this past season with Braylon Staley and Chris Brazzell, and Mike Matthews was a really solid number 3. But the standard at Tennessee is always supposed to be, we're competing for SEC titles. We're going toe-to-toe with our rivals. We are going to be winning every single opportunity that we get. And you won one rivalry game. You went into Florida. You kicked the crap out of the Gators. You made them look basically docile and dead in the first half. But you lost to Alabama. And a slew of plays really got this game out of control. You had the win at home against Georgia until you didn't. And then, unfortunately, you were on the outside looking into the playoff picture. You outgained Oklahoma by over 155 yards, and you still proceeded to lose to an offense that was anemic largely because of Oklahoma's defense. There's a lot of things that Josh Heupel has got to answer for this offseason, including bringing in my opinion, a new defense coordinator. He's got to switch some things with his offense. He has got to make the necessary changes to bring Tennessee to a new level of expectations that they expect and should actually have. But it still wasn't a terrible year. I'm not saying that 8-4 is supposed to be something that you pride yourself on, but it isn't the worst thing possible with total and complete regression when you look at all the things that were against Tennessee in 2025. I don't think that's going to be the case in 2026. Great season, but not in the playoff. This is Texas and Vanderbilt. Let's start off with Vanderbilt. It'll be a year to remember. And honestly, because of what this season provided for you, there's a good start that this is the stepping stone towards incredible success long-term out in Nashville. Number one, it's Nashville. Sells itself. Number two, you got a coach that's locked in long-term. Clark Lee ain't going anywhere anytime soon. You also are having the money and the resources be put in with NIL to believe that football needs to become a priority at this place because you got a coach that makes it a priority at this place. And you were able to flip a lot of talent that probably would scoff at a place like Vanderbilt 5 years ago. Well, guess what? Now it views it as a destination and a place to where they can write their own stories, change their own narratives. And that's because of what you did on the field this season. Beating up on LSU, finding a way to handle business against Missouri, trailing but coming your way back against Texas, winning against your rival. And you all have Diego Pavia to thank for that. And I believe that that's why Diego Pavia deserves to win the Heisman Trophy. I'll die on that take. Pavia belongs in the Big Apple and should be considered a favorite for what he had accomplished. He kept every single one of his preseason expectations alive, and he kept every single one of his promises and checked them off the list, except for one, not going to the college football playoff. But damn it, at least they tried. They saw an opportunity and they said, fine, you don't want to put us in? Let's play for it. Give me an opportunity to have my own Blue Mountain State moment where we don't have to worry about the cameras or the big bright lights. Just let's go play on a football field, put down the ball, we'll line up against anybody. And I could commend you on that one, Clark Lee and Diego Pavia. And honestly, for that standpoint, I understand why you should be in the college football playoff. Now, as for Texas, the reason why you're ahead of Vanderbilt is because you won the football game. And you won football games against Mississippi State. And you won football games against Kentucky. And you also beat up on 3 top 10 teams, which I commend you for. It's the first time since 2019 that we've seen a team look this part. And the version of Texas that we saw against teams like Vanderbilt and against Oklahoma and against Texas A&M showed up throughout the entire season, you'd be in the playoff. And you'd be a threat to actually win the whole damn thing. But you also have to remind yourself, you showed up poorly against UTEP. You showed up poorly against San Jose State. You showed up horrendously against Ohio State in the first game. Now, I'll give you credit, it's Ohio State. So naturally, you're going to have a couple lulls. It's a brand new starting quarterback. It's a bunch of new pieces being brought on in. And you still made it close. But offensively, you had no spark whatsoever. And then you also did not look good against Kentucky, and you didn't look good against Mississippi State. And you had too many stub toes along the way to guarantee that you could even fight for a college football playoff bid. But I ask you as a Texas fan, knowing that you replaced most of your offensive line, knowing that you had a brand new quarterback that Paul Feinbaum decided to overhype, knowing you had a slew of new wide receivers, and knowing that you also had to switch some things up when it came to your offensive personnel after week 1, to be able to say that you got 9 wins against top 10 teams and finish with a still double-digit winning season if you win your bowl game, you view that as a losing season? Okay, if that's a losing season, then congratulations. You hit the lottery on what is underwhelming in the eyes of the faithful down in the 40 acres. Guys, that's a good starting point for going into next season. And I'm not trying to sell this with the glass half full, but you don't have you have a resume that's good enough in wins for the college football playoff, but the committee doesn't look for positivity. They look for negativity. And the negative plays that you had in wins and in losses is why you're not going to be going to the dozen dance this year. But you still are finishing with a top 10 recruiting class. You still are finishing with incredible metrics when it comes against top tier teams. And you're going to utilize this offseason to go into the transfer portal, fix a lot of issues, and put yourself in a better spot going into 2026. So, I mean, for Texas, if this is what you consider a losing season because you did make the college football playoff, I get it. But it's not a losing season in terms of what it could have been when you look back at what it was in week 1, week 2, week 4, week 6, all little things like that go a long way. I'm just saying, you're not going to go to the college football playoff this year. Neither is Vanderbilt in the eyes of the public. That doesn't mean it's a lost season. Hey, not Penn State coach. Do it again. That's Alabama. Alabama is not going to be left out of the college football playoff, in my opinion, even in a loss, because the college football playoff committee does not want to hear the belly aching and more so the rant of a lifetime from Greg Sankey on why the number 1 team in the SEC, losing by 3 points on Saturday, was kept out of the postseason. It's just not going to happen. So they will be in the college football playoff. But this is about setting a tone against a team that has always wanted to say they're the next Bama. And that's a Kirby Smart-led team. Kalen DeBoer is not leaving for Penn State. I can tell you that right now. We all know that at this point. He made it abundantly clear on Thursday. He's also made it abundantly clear that while I may lose to Brent Venables, I beat the best. Every single time. He is 7-0 against Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, and Steve Sarkisian. That's just a fact. You can argue with me all you want. But he is able to beat the best because if he is one of the best. Now, all you got to do on Saturday to end all the narrative of does Alabama truly belong in the college football playoff is beat up on Georgia, which is the customary thing for you during the regular season, and especially when you guys play in Atlanta. It may not be Nick Saban anymore, but it still is Bama. And the notion is we beat Georgia when it's not the national championship. And even if we were to play them in the national championship, we still beat them. We may need overtime in a 2nd and 26 play of a lifetime, but we still beat you. So again, win this one, silence the doubters, don't listen to the critics. You'll be right in the college football playoff. And also, if you just want to be completely honest, wins over teams like Vanderbilt, Missouri, Georgia, and let's just go ahead and throw it on in South Carolina, Auburn, and you could throw on in also maybe a team like Wisconsin. Maybe not the best resume, but it still is a pretty damn good resume when you ask me, because you have 4 straight wins against ranked opponents in the SEC. Playoffs. Anything else? This is Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Let's start up with Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a defense good enough to win a national title. And that's credit to Brent Venables. That's credit to Jim Nagy, the GM. That's credit to the defensive staff. This team is legit in the trenches. They will come for you. They will feast on you. They will force you to make mistakes, and they will capitalize. If you just told me that defensively, I can trust one team in the college football playoff, I am picking Oklahoma, and I'm not looking to second place. I'm not. Which is why they will go to the college football playoff after securing wins over Missouri, Alabama, and Tennessee, where in all 3 games, they trailed in yards by over 100 the entire night. They found a way to win. Now, the offense, it is what it is, and that's not promising. Now, depending on who you face off against in the first round of the postseason, you may win that game. But it does feel like there is a ceiling right now with John Mateer. You rely far too heavily on explosive plays. The run game can be there, but against quality defenses, it really hasn't been. And you're really trusting on other opponents to make the mental mistakes for you to be able to capitalize. That's just the bottom line. It is not an insult to Oklahoma. You belong in the college football playoff for your resume and for scheduling tough matchups. But I don't think that you're ready to win a national championship this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but right now it's just playoffs. Nothing else. And maybe the same goes for Texas A&M. Texas A&M is 11-1. They belong in the college football playoff. I will die on that take regardless of what Texas fans want to say. Because last season, Texas had a weaker schedule, and they didn't beat one ranked opponent. And lo and behold, they still went to the Atlanta, and they still went to the college football playoff, and they found their way all the way to the semifinals. Maybe that's Texas A&M. You got a good offense. You got an offense that's dangerous on the ground, great in pass pro, and you got a quarterback that when he isn't turning the football over is hitting dimes downfield to Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion for an easy 6 points. Oh, and if that's not enough, you got a defensive-minded coach and a defensive terror named Cassius Howell coming off of the edge, ruining a quarterback's Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. So I do think that there is a lot to like about Texas A&M as a team, but we saw them face off against a ranked opponent in a road environment to where it felt like their backs were against the wall. That gives me a reason for concern. Doesn't mean I think that Texas A&M is not going to be one that we will see make a run in the college football playoff. Matchups are going to be very key here. But I do think that right now, if the version that we saw on Friday will be the version that we see moving forward, there is a ceiling on this team. And that's probably you go to the playoff, you win a playoff game, maybe you're lucky and you get out of the quarterfinals, but the end stops in the semis. Prove me wrong. Colin Klein is going to be sticking around. How much did he fix with the offense over the next 2.5 weeks to guarantee that if they are hosting a game at home, they're walking away with the dub? If they're playing on the road, they're walking away with the dub. And if they play in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, they feel like that if momentum continues to swing their way, they will be in the national championship. Next up, the West Cannon Coyotes. Many of you know that team, right? It's from the movie Varsity Blues. Well, if you know what happened in that movie, they told John Voight's character, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I do know that Billy Bob caught the game-winning touchdown. Take a hike. You don't care about us. You don't care about anything other than your laurels and your numbers. Doesn't that sound like Ole Miss right now? Ole Miss has a head coach in Pete Golding. He is basically taken on over as who was supposed to be the quarterback that was played by Paul Walker. I'm blanking on his name off the top of my head. But still, he's taken on over in that role. They're going to be running the offense. They're going to be running a spread unit. They're going to be doing everything without their leading man in charge. And they ended up winning that game. Last time I checked, that Ole Miss is 11-1. They were able to hang 35 points against Georgia. They beat everybody else on their schedule. They had a pretty convincing margin of victory in almost every single matchup. They handled business on the road and at home outside of Sanford Stadium in the fourth quarter. They have a Heisman caliber quarterback. They have a Doak Walker caliber running back. They have multiple wide receivers that can make big time plays. And they have a serviceable defense that is able to go corral quarterbacks into making mental mistakes. They got a shot. Like, I don't understand why we're all just looking at just the Lane Kiffin part of it and saying that Ole Miss does not have an opportunity to run the table and make it down to South Florida and play for a national title. The West Cannon Coyotes were able to play for a district title without John Voight. You can play for a national title without Lane Kiffin. And how great of a storyline would it be if we just saw Trinidad Chambliss after hoisting up a national title saying, I'm meant to be here. And Creemon Lacey grabs the other side of it and goes, I ain't leaving either. We're meant to be with the Rebels. Damn straight. Hotty-toddy, loud and proud, damn it. And finally, the standard. That's Georgia. The standard is that Georgia does not beat Alabama, but it beats everybody else. Bottom line, you face off against them in Atlanta and you're not named Alabama, you're usually going to win that game. 99.99999% you're going to win that game. And after you lose to Alabama, whatever happens, you find a way to fix the faults and make yourself look like the most dominant team in the SEC. Season were to end today, Ohio State and Georgia would be my pick to go to the national championship, even if Georgia were to lose to Alabama in the SEC title, because they're built different defensively. They're not getting sacks, but they're getting pressures. They're winning in coverage. They're playing physically at the linebacker spot. They are making play after play after play, and they're not having the mental mistakes. They're just simply not. Offensively, you got a quarterback that has more passing touchdowns than incompletions in 2 games this year against ranked teams, I might also add in. So let's just throw that stat line up there. And you also have a running game that's getting healthy with the addition of Chauncey Bowman's coming on back. You're no longer that roster that we saw in Sanford Stadium against Alabama that made several mental mistakes, but at the end of the day, was able to keep this thing close and fight their way back into the fourth quarter. You have all the right pieces in play, and you have the coach that is the best at making secondary adjustments. When he talks about Bloody Tuesday, he carries it on over to Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. And after the game, he still is not satisfied with how you played. And that's the way that you have to go into the college football playoff if you want to win. Georgia is built to win a national title. Even if you say that they had their faults against Georgia Tech and they didn't show up offensively until the second half against Alabama, and they nearly blew a game against Ole Miss, and they nearly blew a game against Tennessee, it's built different. This team is ready to go on a run once again. And don't be shocked if they're the ones cutting down what would be the hypothetical nets in this situation, or hoisting up a college football national championship trophy for the 3rd time in the Kirby Smart era, even with the loss on Saturday. They built different. And guess what? I think that they're probably going to have a pretty good shot of winning the whole damn thing. But those are our final tier rankings of the regular season. The standard, the West Cannon Coyotes. Playoffs, anything else? Hey, not in state, coach, do it again. Great season, not in the playoff. Bull bound, but below standards. Watch out for us next year. Same coach, same us. New coach, new us. Let me know in the comment section what you think, where everyone ranks. Make sure that also you go check out my friends over at FanDuel, FanDuel.com/SECU, the perfect place to sign up right now. Get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Could be on same game parlays, player props, anything in the world of college football, college basketball, the NHL, the NBA, future bets, or of course the NFL. Now is the perfect time to play this holiday season. Sign it up at FanDuel.com/SECU. Until next time, folks, I'm Cole Thompson. What a college football season in the SEC did we just have? And it's only getting started with the playoffs. Peace.